Picture a light so impossibly ancient that it has outlived the very stars it witnessed being born, a primordial glow hiding just beyond the edge of human perception. This is not the familiar comforting warmth of our local sun, but a relentless, omnipresent vibration saturating every single millimetre of the known cosmos. It is the ultimate ghost of creation, a fading echo from the dawn of time drifting endlessly through a universe that is relentlessly tearing itself apart. Imagine peering into the freezing dark and discovering that this expanding void carries a secret, intricate geometry woven into its very fabric. If we were to look closer at the emptiness, we would see that these ancient waves possess a distinct and coordinated physical orientation, twisting and aligning as they pass unseen celestial giants. They are silently mapping the hidden architecture of reality, revealing the invisible gravitational phantoms that dictate the grand, swirling flow of all matter. Deep within this cosmic structure, a profound and unstoppable transformation is taking place across the billions of empty light years. As the universe accelerates its violent expansion, this primordial illumination is being stretched and pulled toward a deeply silent, inevitable conclusion. We exist in a fleeting, miraculously privileged window of history, where the fading embers of the Big Bang can still be read before they vanish into the absolute void forever. This monumental stretching means that distant future civilizations will one day look up into a completely dark, featureless sky, totally blind to the explosive origins of their own existence. The majestic story of the universe's fiery birth is slowly being erased from the heavens, retreating into the frozen shadows of the deep vacuum. Every passing second pulls the ultimate fate of this light closer to a cold, motionless freeze where even the oldest atoms will finally forget how to dance. Surprisingly, the terrifying scale of this sweeping cosmic theatre has no demands to place upon your weary shoulders tonight. You are safe. These wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep, transforming the cold equations of deep space into a gentle, protective blanket. This quiet room is your personal vessel, perfectly designed to carry you away from the noise and gravity of the waking world. Allow the steady, comforting rhythm of your own breathing to match the slow, eternal expansion of the dark sky resting high above you. Listen closely to the absolute silence of the deep void, and you might realize it is not truly silent at all. Listen closely to the absolute silence of the deep void, and you might realize it is not truly silent at all. A subtle, omnipresent vibration permeates every single millimeter of the cosmos, echoing from the very dawn of time. This is the oldest illumination in existence, a primordial glow that has outlived countless generations of massive stars. Far beyond the furthest galaxies and the darkest nebulas, this ancient radiation forms a perfect, seamless sphere around our observable reality. It does not emanate from a single distant point like a conventional star, but rather exists everywhere all at once. Every cubic inch of the seemingly empty vacuum is thoroughly saturated with this relentless, invisible energy. If we possessed eyes capable of perceiving this specific frequency, the night sky would cease to be a canvas of black speckled with distant suns. Instead, the entire firmament would blaze with a uniform, overwhelming brilliance that leaves absolutely no room for shadows. This absolute uniformity tells a breathtaking story of a universe that was once incredibly dense and perfectly smooth. We are constantly swimming through a boundless ocean of this ancient light, an eternal reminder of the fiery genesis that birthed everything we know. Curiously, the most profound cosmological revelation of the 20th century arrived not through theoretical brilliance, but as a persistent, incredibly annoying hiss. Back in 1965, two radio astronomers were testing an extremely sensitive horn-shaped antenna built to bounce signals off early communication satellites. No matter where they pointed their massive instrument in the sky, a steady, low-level microwave static continuously corrupted their delicate data. Frustrated by the stubborn interference, the scientists initially suspected local, mundane sources were sabotaging their groundbreaking equipment. They even climbed inside the massive metallic horn to scrub away a thick layer of accumulated pigeon droppings, assuming the birds were the culprits. Yet, after the exhaustive cleaning and the eviction of the nesting pigeons, the mysterious humming static remained exactly as loud as before. Eventually they realized this unrelenting noise was not originating from the Earth, the atmosphere, or even our local solar system. The mysterious signal was completely uniform, raining down on their antenna with identical intensity from every possible direction in the celestial sphere. Without intending to, these engineers had stumbled upon the faded echo of creation itself, permanently changing our understanding of the universe's chaotic origin. Wind the cosmic clock backward past the formation of the Earth, past the birth of the Milky Way, to the infancy of reality itself. In the grand timeline of a universe stretching across billions of years, the moment this light was released occurred in the blink of an eye. The cosmos was a mere 380,000 years old, a tiny fraction of its current age, when a monumental and irreversible phase transition took place. Prior to this exact threshold, the intense heat and crushing pressure of the early universe created an environment completely hostile to the propagation of light. Every photon birthed in that inferno was instantly absorbed and scattered by a thick, restless ocean of violently colliding subatomic particles. The universe was locked in a state of brilliant opaque blindness, a fiercely glowing womb where nothing could be seen. However, as the fabric of space relentlessly expanded outward, the ambient temperature of this primordial soup began to drop significantly. Reaching a critical cooling point, the chaotic energy finally subsided enough to allow the first stable atomic structures to permanently assemble. In that precise cosmological instant, the dense particle fog miraculously cleared, setting the trapped radiation free to begin its eternal journey across the void. Deep within the first few 100,000 years of existence, the concept of a transparent vacuum was physically impossible. The embryonic universe was utterly choked by a sweltering hyperdense plasma, comprised primarily of loose protons and fiercely energetic electrons. This chaotic state of matter resembled the roiling magnetic interior of a star, but it stretched infinitely in every conceivable direction. Any light attempting to navigate this primordial tempest was doomed to a frantic, stuttering existence, bouncing erratically between the densely packed charged particles. A photon would travel only a microscopic fraction of a millimeter before violently colliding with a free electron, ricocheting onto a completely new path. This ceaseless pinball effect meant that despite being incredibly luminous, the cosmos was entirely opaque, trapping all energy within a suffocating glowing fog. If an observer could somehow survive within this infernal epoch, they would not see a starry expanse or distant cosmic structures. Their vision would be entirely overwhelmed by a blinding uniform wall of brilliant white heat pressing intimately against them from all sides. The universe was effectively a closed, luminous prison, waiting for the crucial moment of expansion that would finally shatter the blazing walls of plasma. Picture the immense tension of a taut spring slowly releasing its stored energy over thousands of millennia. As the spatial dimensions of the universe dramatically inflated, the extreme thermal energy of the primordial plasma was forced to spread out and dilute. The relentless, violent collisions between particles began to lose their ferocious intensity, allowing a profound structural elegance to finally take hold. When the ambient temperature eventually plunged below a pivotal threshold of about 3000 degrees Kelvin, the cosmic battlefield grew suddenly quiet. The previously frantic, free-roaming electrons lost the kinetic energy required to constantly evade the attractive electromagnetic pull of the heavier protons. In a magnificent cascade occurring across the entirety of creation, these opposite charges firmly locked together to form the very first neutral atoms. This monumental event, known as recombination, primarily yielded vast billowing clouds of simple hydrogen gas, fundamentally altering the chemistry of the cosmos. The chaotic, charged plasma that had dominated reality since the initial singularity was abruptly neutralized and pacified on a universal scale. By locking away the disruptive free electrons, the newly forged hydrogen atoms unwittingly orchestrated the most significant visual clearing in the history of time. Suddenly, the suffocating veil of the early universe simply dissolved into nothingness, revealing the vast, stretching expanse of a newly transparent cosmos. With the loose electrons securely tethered to protons, the rampant scattering of light ceased almost instantaneously across the entire celestial expanse. The photons, which had been trapped in a chaotic dance of endless collisions for hundreds of thousands of years, were finally liberated. Like a colossal curtain being violently pulled back on a darkened stage, the universe experienced its first true dawn. The formerly trapped light surged forward in a synchronized omnidirectional wave, racing away from the fading embers of the dense plasma. For the very first time in existence, a particle of light could travel in a perfectly straight line without striking a barrier. This spectacular flash of liberation flooded the newly clear vacuum with a brilliant, blinding radiance that touched every corner of the expanding sphere. The cosmos had effectively shed its glowing, opaque skin, transforming from a dense, fiery cloud into a vast open arena of pristine emptiness. It was a singular, unrepeatable moment of optical clarity that officially marked the end of the universe's chaotic infancy and the beginning of its dark expansion. Astonishingly, the light particles washing over our planet right at this very second were born in that exact moment of primordial clearing. They have not been emitted by any intervening star, nor have they bounced off any reflective cosmic dust during their colossal voyage. These specific photons have maintained a singular, unwavering trajectory through the desolate emptiness of the vacuum for an unfathomable 13.8 billion years. Throughout their epic journey, entire galaxies have slowly condensed from swirling gas, ignited their stellar furnaces, and eventually burned themselves out entirely. Whole generations of massive suns have lived and died in spectacular supernova explosions, while these ancient particles silently glided past the wreckage. They have traversed vast, lonely voids measuring hundreds of millions of light-years across, regions so incredibly desolate that gravity itself seems to hold no sway. When these weary travellers finally terminate their marathon by colliding with a satellite dish or a radio telescope on Earth, they deliver a pristine message. They are the oldest, undisturbed physical artefacts humanity can ever hope to directly touch, offering a completely uncorrupted physical record of the dawn of time. Their arrival is the ultimate cosmic marathon, completing a journey that spans the entire chronological history of existence itself. At the exact moment of its spectacular release, this primordial flash was not the gentle, invisible hum we presently detect with our modern instruments. It burst forth as an intensely energetic, blindingly brilliant wall of visible light, glowing with the fierce intensity of a stellar core. If a human observer had been present to witness this grand unveiling, the sheer optical brilliance would have instantly overwhelmed their sight. However, the physical fabric of space itself has been relentlessly expanding, stretching outward like an inflating balloon over billions of years. As the universe grew dramatically larger, it physically pulled and elongated the wavelength of this ancient light travelling through it. The tight, energetic ripples of visible white light were gradually stretched into longer, weaker infrared waves, and eventually into the microscopic radio waves we call microwaves. This extreme cosmological redshift has completely drained the ancient photons of their fiery, visual intensity, plunging their frequency deep into the invisible spectrum. The blinding radiance that once defined the entire universe has been stretched so thin and so far that it now barely registers as a whisper of heat. It is a profound demonstration of how the very geometry of space can warp and subdue even the most powerful energies born from the Big Bang. Consider the familiar chaotic hiss of black and white static dancing across the screen of an old, heavy analog television set tuned to a dead channel. Most of that random, flickering noise is simply generated by terrestrial radio interference, passing cars, or the internal thermal workings of the appliance itself. Yet, hidden within that swirling electronic snowstorm is a profound microscopic connection to the absolute beginning of the universe. Roughly 1% of the erratic static visible on that screen is directly caused by the cosmic microwave background physically interacting with the television's antenna. Those ancient stretched photons, having travelled 13.8 billion years across the freezing void, finally exhaust their remaining energy by striking the metal rods of the aerial. They induce a tiny, fluctuating electrical current that the television's circuitry inadvertently amplifies and translates into a visible speck of white noise. Long before massive orbital observatories mapped the sky, ordinary people were unwittingly watching the fading afterglow of the Big Bang in their own living rooms. It is a staggering realization that a mundane piece of household electronics occasionally acts as a crude but highly effective quantum receiver for the oldest light in existence. Every time the screen hissed with untuned snow, a fraction of that chaos was the direct whisper of the primordial cosmos ending its colossal journey. Right now, as you exist in this precise moment, you are deeply submerged within an invisible, ancient ocean of cosmic energy. The remnants of the Big Bang do not merely exist in the distant, freezing reaches of deep space, they permeate the very air around you. Hundreds of these primordial microwave photons are constantly passing through your body every single second, entirely slipping past the limitations of human biology. Our sensory organs evolved to detect the bright, visible light of our local sun and the immediate sharp variations in our terrestrial environment. We're completely blind and numb to this constant, low-energy cosmic drizzle that relentlessly falls upon the Earth from every single direction in the sky. It passes completely through the walls of our homes, the depths of our oceans, and the core of our planet without leaving a physical trace. Despite its profound historical significance and immense cosmological power, this radiation is doomed to remain a silent phantom presence in our daily lives. It is the ultimate cosmic irony that the most massive, ubiquitous structure in the entire universe rests gently upon our skin without us ever feeling its profound touch. We walk through the fading embers of creation every day, blissfully unaware of the ancient, invisible fire that surrounds us. Although this ancient, invisible fire surrounds us completely, its ferocity has been entirely extinguished by the relentless passage of eons. If you were to step far outside our solar system and measure the ambient temperature of the darkest void, you would not find the absolute zero of theoretical physics. Instead, a biting, pervasive chill perfectly mimics a deep winter night radiating from a starless sky. This profound coldness registers at a staggering 2.725 degrees above absolute zero, barely enough to register on the most sensitive thermal instruments. The sheer extremity of this freezing environment is difficult for the human mind to properly contextualize, as it exists far beyond the coldest environments naturally occurring on our planet. It represents a state where atomic motion has almost ground to a complete and eternal halt. Yet this specific frigid metric is the exact signature of the primordial dawn, stretched out and cooled by billions of years of cosmic expansion. The blistering heat of the early universe has been diluted into this ghostly thermal whisper, lingering permanently in the freezing dark. Every instrument we send into the deep vacuum is immediately embraced by this incredibly precise, unending chill. Surprisingly, the true vacuum of the cosmos is physically prevented from reaching the ultimate state of perfect cold solely because of this faint thermal blanket. Without the lingering presence of the ancient radiation, the immense expanses between galaxy clusters would plunge into a state of absolute thermal death. The stretching fabric of reality would possess no inherent warmth whatsoever, sitting firmly at the absolute zero point where all quantum movement ceases. Instead, this omnipresent bath of weary photons acts as a permanent universal thermostat for the entirety of existence. Even in the most desolate, isolated pockets of the cosmos, where no starlight has ever managed to penetrate, this baseline temperature stubbornly persists. It is an inescapable thermal flaw that dictates the fundamental physical conditions of the deep void. No matter how far a hypothetical traveller might venture into the dark, they can never truly escape this gentle, freezing glow. The universe has fundamentally insulated itself with its own origin story, ensuring that nowhere in the sprawling expanse can perfect cold ever truly exist. This residual warmth is a silent testament to a time when the entire cosmos was a singular, boiling crucible of energy. Even more remarkably, when astronomers point their most sophisticated thermal telescopes in any conceivable direction, this biting ambient temperature remains almost exactly uniform. Whether scanning the distant northern celestial hemisphere or peering deep into the southern skies, the thermal readouts return the exact same freezing value. There are no massive thermal gradients, no vast warm fronts, and no localized cold snaps sweeping across the cosmic horizon. This staggering level of isotropy suggests a bizarre perfection that completely defies our everyday understanding of thermodynamics and natural chaos. In any ordinary explosion or rapid expansion, we would expect to find chaotic variations, with some regions significantly hotter or colder than others. Yet, the deep cosmos presents a perfectly smooth, unvarying thermal face to our observing instruments, regardless of where we look. Such absolute uniformity across tens of billions of light years implies a deeply coordinated origin for every single point in the observable sky. It is as if the entire sprawling expanse of reality agreed upon a single, precise temperature before expanding into the dark. This perfect symmetry remains one of the most elegant and confounding architectural features of our vast cosmos. As you rest there, feeling the steady rhythm of your own breathing, consider how your body maintains a careful, localized warmth against the cold. Let your muscles relax deeper into that comfort, contrasting your living heat with the terrifying stillness of the deep vacuum. If we were to look closer at that supposedly perfect cosmic stillness, we would eventually discover it is not entirely flawless. The variation in warmth from one patch of the ancient sky to another is microscopic, differing by only a few tens of millionths of a degree. These infinitesimal ripples in the thermal blanket are so subtle that they remained completely invisible to our initial rudimentary orbital instruments. It required decades of technological advancement and incredibly sensitive superconducting detectors to finally perceive these faint, delicate blemishes. These tiny temperature anomalies appear as a random mottled pattern of slightly warmer and slightly cooler patches scattered across the celestial sphere. They are the faintest whispers of imperfection, barely disturbing the otherwise serene and uniform face of the ancient radiation. Yet, without these microscopic deviations from perfect smoothness, the universe as we know it could never have come to exist. Deep within these minuscule temperature fluctuations lie the vital quantum seeds of all future stellar architecture. A patch of the sky that is a fraction of a millionth of a degree cooler represents a region where primordial matter was slightly denser than its surroundings. Over immense gulfs of time, that tiny density advantage allowed invisible gravity to begin its slow, inexorable work of pulling material together. Conversely, the microscopically warmer patches identify ancient voids where matter was ever so slightly dispersed, destined to become the vast empty deserts of the cosmos. Every single massive cluster of galaxies currently spinning in the dark can trace its specific origin directly back to one of those cooler, denser seeds. They are the ultimate architectural blueprints, drawn in the delicate ink of subatomic temperature variations. The majestic spiral arms of our home galaxy and the very dust that formed the Earth were all predetermined by these microscopic ripples. The universe essentially traded perfect thermal symmetry for the chaotic, beautiful complexity of matter and structure. We owe our very existence to these imperceptible flaws frozen in the fading light of creation. Such extraordinary, near-perfect uniformity across the entire sky initially baffled astronomers and threatened to shatter existing cosmological models. The sheer distance between opposite sides of the observable universe is so incredibly vast that not even light has had enough time to travel between them. Therefore, these widely separated regions should never have been able to interact, mix, or equalize their temperatures. If you pour cold milk into hot coffee, the liquids must physically touch and mingle for the temperature to eventually balance out into a warm mixture. Yet, opposite edges of the cosmos are entirely identical in temperature, despite being completely isolated from one another since the very beginning of time. They have never shared a causal connection, making their thermal identicality a profound and deeply unsettling paradox. This fundamental contradiction became widely known as the horizon problem, a theoretical crisis that kept cosmologists awake late into the night. It suggested that our fundamental understanding of how the early universe expanded was missing a crucial, explosive puzzle piece. The perfectly balanced scales of the cosmos demanded an explanation that defied the standard limits of physics and light-speed communication. Allow your shoulders to drop and your mind to drift back to the infancy of reality, feeling the gentle pull of gravity anchoring you comfortably to the present. While your resting body occupies a tiny specific point in space, the mind can effortlessly stretch to encompass these mind-bending cosmic paradoxes. To solve the horizon problem, brilliant theoretical physicists were forced to propose a terrifyingly violent concept known as cosmic inflation. This radical theory suggests that in the very first fraction of a microsecond of existence, space itself expanded at an utterly incomprehensible exponential rate. The fabric of reality ballooned outward much faster than the speed of light, an action completely permitted by the laws of general relativity. In a trillionth of a blink, the universe grew from a subatomic speck to macroscopic proportions. This brief period of unimaginable expansion acted as a universal equalizer, a violent stretching that vigorously ironed out almost all the wrinkles in space-time. It was a fleeting, cataclysmic growth spurt that forever altered the geometry and destiny of everything that would follow. The theory of inflation provided a beautiful mathematical bridge between the chaotic quantum world and the smooth, grand scales of the cosmos. By suddenly stretching a tiny, thermally balanced speck into macroscopic scales, this inflationary epoch perfectly explains why the ancient afterglow is so incredibly smooth today. Before the rapid expansion began, that initial microscopic point of reality was small enough for all its internal energy to thoroughly mix and equalize in temperature. When inflation violently ripped that speck outward, it preserved that perfect thermal equilibrium across the newly created vastness of space. The opposite horizons of our current sky have the exact same temperature precisely because they were once intimately touching in that primordial subatomic seed. They did not need to exchange heat across billions of light years. They had already done so when they were essentially occupying the same quantum space. Inflation merely took a perfectly mixed tiny droplet of reality and stretched it into a boundless ocean. The microscopic temperature ripples we see today are simply quantum fluctuations, tiny random changes in energy that were frozen and magnified by this rapid stretching. We are quite literally looking at the microscopic uncertainty of the quantum world blown up to the size of the entire observable cosmos. It is a dizzying realization that the grandest structures in the sky are merely magnified shadows of subatomic ghosts. Carefully measuring the precise size, spacing, and intensity of these slight temperature dips and peaks allows cosmologists to accomplish an incredible feat. By analyzing the mathematical harmonics of these subtle ripples, scientists can accurately weigh the entire universe from the comfort of Earth. The ancient light acts as a vast cosmological scale, revealing the exact density of the fabric of reality itself. If the universe contained more matter, the stronger gravitational pull would have altered the way sound waves move through the early primordial plasma. This would have shifted the size of the thermal spots, creating a distinctly different pattern in the celestial map. By comparing the observed pattern against complex computer simulations, researchers can narrow down the total mass of existence with astonishing precision. It is a masterclass in cosmic forensics, extracting the absolute total weight of all creation merely by reading the faint thermal static of the sky. We do not need to physically count every star, gas cloud, and black hole to know exactly how much stuff is out there. The ancient light has already done the accounting for us, permanently recording the universe's mass in the delicate geometry of its fading warmth. We now know exactly how much normal matter, and dark energy exists simply by decoding the precise ratios hidden within this thermal map. The familiar tangible stuff that makes up planets, stars, and human bodies accounts for an astonishingly paltry 5% of the total cosmic budget. The overwhelming majority of reality is constructed from entirely invisible components that completely evade our direct senses. Roughly 27% of the universe is composed of dark matter, a mysterious transparent substance that acts as the gravitational glue holding galaxies together. The remaining 68% is dominated by dark energy, a repulsive force that is actively accelerating the expansion of the void, driving everything apart. These exact, unyielding percentages were not guessed or estimated. They were directly read from the thermal blueprint left by the first light. This staggering revelation fundamentally humbles our place in the cosmos, proving that the vibrant, visible universe we interact with is merely a tiny fraction of existence. The freezing, ambient glow of the deep void holds the ultimate recipe of reality, a mixture of shadows and energy that dictates the past, present, and ultimate fate of all things. We are but a thin, luminous foam riding upon a vast, dark ocean of unknown forces. To navigate this vast, dark ocean of unknown forces and truly understand the luminous foam we inhabit, humanity had to cast mechanical eyes into the freezing void. Decades of obsessive engineering culminated in a lineage of extraordinary orbital observatories sent far beyond our atmosphere to silently watch the sky. Instruments bearing the names of scientific pioneers have spent their entire operational lives meticulously photographing the oldest light in existence. High above the distorting haze of our own atmosphere, these delicate sensors stared unblinking into the deep vacuum. They patiently collected the weary, ancient photons one by one, slowly weaving together a complete visual tapestry of the primordial sky. The resulting image is as delicate and complex as the intricate swirling patterns of frost forming on a winter window pane. Compiling this data required stripping away the glaring foreground noise of our own local neighbourhood, revealing the pristine truth hidden beneath. The finished portraits represent humanity's greatest cartographic achievement, a complete panoramic projection of the entire celestial sphere. They offer a godlike perspective of the early universe, captured in a single, breathtaking, static frame. What emerges from these decades of painstaking observation is an iconic, multicoloured oval speckling the otherwise dark cosmos. This famous cartographic projection transforms invisible thermal data into a vibrant, impressionistic mosaic of primary colours. The intricate tapestry is composed entirely of myriad tiny dots, each representing a microscopic variation in the density of the early universe. Scanning across this grand oval, one sees a seemingly chaotic scattering of cool cerulean pools, warm scarlet islands, and bright golden filaments. These colours are not literal visual representations, but rather a carefully chosen palette designed to make the invisible thermal landscape accessible to the human eye. They map a terrain of energy rather than geography, illustrating a universe that was perfectly smooth save for these most delicate of ripples. This beautiful, speckled map resembles an abstract painting, yet it is the most rigorously accurate charting of physical reality ever produced. Every single dot and swirling colour gradient corresponds to a precise physical state of the primordial plasma right before it vanished. It is a topographic map of the very fabric of existence, etched into the fading warmth of the ancient glow. Focus closely on the deep azure patches scattered across this grand celestial mosaic. These darker blue regions indicate areas where the ancient glowing fog was fractionally cooler than the universal average. While the temperature difference was incredibly minute, it signified a monumental physical advantage in the dark, silent depths of space. In these slightly cooler zones, the primordial matter was just a tiny bit more tightly packed together than in the warmer regions. This microscopic increase in density was the only foothold gravity needed to begin its slow, inexorable work of cosmic construction. The extra mass created a slightly stronger gravitational pull, silently dragging adjacent particles of matter toward the centre of the cool spot. Let the tension melt from your jaw and neck as you contemplate the immense patience of these early gravitational forces working in the dark. As your breathing settles into a steady, comforting rhythm, imagine those dense azure regions acting as inescapable cosmic valleys. They were the very first structures in existence, invisible gravitational sinks that would eventually dictate the flow of all matter in the cosmos. Conversely, the bright crimson islands scattered between the blue pools tell a completely different, much lonelier story of cosmic evolution. These warmer patches mark vast territories where the early plasma was spread just a fraction of a percent thinner. Lacking the necessary density, these regions were completely defenseless against the relentless pull of the cooler, heavier neighbouring zones. As eons drifted by, the subtle gravitational disadvantage of these warmer areas caused them to slowly bleed their matter into the surrounding void. They were gradually evacuated, their raw materials steadily siphoned off by the stronger gravitational wells nearby. Over billions of years of cosmic expansion, these slightly less dense regions would expand and empty out entirely. Today, these ancient red spots correspond directly to the most terrifyingly desolate features of the modern universe. They have grown into the immense spherical voids that separate the massive superclusters of galaxies, regions so incredibly empty that a photon could travel for millions of millennia without touching a single atom. They are the grand deserts of the cosmos, born from the simple misfortune of being microscopically too warm at the dawn of time. To gaze upon this speckled, colourful oval is to quite literally look at an intimate baby picture of reality itself. This image captures the cosmos frozen in a state of absolute infancy, vastly long before the first stellar furnace was ever ignited. It is a true snapshot of an era completely devoid of planets, black holes, or the complex chemistry necessary for life. Everything that currently exists, from the swirling dust clouds of distant nebulas to the iron in your blood, was present in this early portrait. However, it existed only as raw, unorganized potential, a smooth soup of simple elements waiting for the slow mechanics of gravity to act. The entire history of creation is compressed into this single, static frame of glowing heat. We're afforded this impossible view because looking deep into space is identical to looking far backward in time. The light carrying this image has been journeying toward us for practically the entire lifespan of the universe, preserving the past with perfect fidelity. We're essentially catching the reflection of our own cosmic infancy in a mirror that took billions of years to reach our eyes. Releasing the tension in your hands and feet, sink deeper into your resting space, feeling completely supported and grounded. While your body remains perfectly still, the mind can easily visualize those ancient blue spots intensifying into colossal, unseen whirlpools. They acted as immense, inescapable gravitational wells, silently orchestrating the largest migration of matter in the history of the universe. For hundreds of millions of years during the starless epoch, these dark wells steadily drew in vast oceans of neutral hydrogen and helium gas. the microscopic density advantages had compounded over time, creating crushing pockets of immense pressure deep within the dark vacuum. The gas clouds were violently compressed together, heating up dramatically as they fell relentlessly toward the centre of the gravitational sinks. This slow, violent accumulation of raw elemental material was the absolute prerequisite for the grand illumination that was to come. The cool blue spots on our map were not merely passive stains, but active, incredibly powerful engines of cosmic architecture. They were gathering the vast reserves of fuel required to finally end the absolute darkness of the early universe. Deep within the crushing hearts of these primordial puddles of gathered matter, physical conditions reached an extreme and violent tipping point. The temperature and pressure of the compressed hydrogen gas became so impossibly intense that atomic nuclei were forced to fuse together. This explosive nuclear reaction released a staggering amount of energy, finally shattering the long, dark epoch that had gripped the cosmos. Out of these dense gathering clouds, the very first generation of colossal, brilliant suns suddenly roared into existence. These pioneering stellar giants were completely unlike anything burning in the modern sky, burning fiercely bright and dying quickly in spectacular explosions. They flooded the surrounding void with intense, harsh ultraviolet radiation, forever altering the physical state of the gas that filled the universe. Bound together by the same relentless gravity that birthed them, these early swarms of brilliant fire slowly merged and organized. They condensed into the majestic, spinning pinwheels of the very first celestial cities, illuminating the dark with the collective light of billions of young suns. The delicate, frosty patterns of the ancient light map had directly birthed the magnificent, shining architecture of the modern cosmos. The staggering scale of this ancient architectural blueprint is almost impossible to truly comprehend without a sense of profound awe. Every single massive cluster of matter currently drifting through the vastness of space owes its specific location to that primordial map. If you point a telescope at any of the colossal, brightly glowing superclusters dominating our night sky, you're looking at the direct descendant of an ancient temperature dip. Our own local celestial neighbourhood, the massive spiralling disk of stars we call home, is no exception to this cosmic rule. Its specific position, its mass, and its eventual collision course with neighbouring star systems were all determined by the precise shape of one of those blue speckles. We are the direct, inevitable consequence of a microscopic cold spot that existed billions of years before our sun was born. This creates an unbroken, undeniable chain of causality stretching from the absolute present day all the way back to the glowing dawn of reality. The sweeping, majestic structures of the modern universe are merely the mature, fully grown expressions of the tiny frosty ripples mapped by our satellites. The grand destiny of every star and planet was irrevocably sealed the moment the ancient fog cleared. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest as you breathe, a perfectly natural rhythmic pattern occurring without conscious effort. The universe, too, possesses its own profound underlying rhythm that governs the seemingly chaotic scattering of those red and blue dots. While the precise location of any individual spot is entirely unpredictable, the overall statistical distribution of the entire map follows strict, unyielding laws. This sprawling pattern of ancient thermal static perfectly matches the rigid, highly complex predictions of modern quantum mechanics. The exact sizing and spacing of the ripples mirror the chaotic subatomic bubbling that occurs at the absolute smallest scales of reality. It proves definitively that the macroscopic structure of the entire universe is merely a frozen, magnified reflection of subatomic uncertainty. It is a breathtaking synthesis of the absolute largest and the absolute smallest realms of physics, tied together in a single image. The same bizarre rules that govern the erratic behaviour of electrons and quarks also dictated the placement of entire galaxy clusters. This colourful oval map serves as the ultimate undeniable proof that the cosmos was born from a fiercely strange quantum seed. Beyond revealing the architectural blueprint of existence, This static portrait holds one final, incredibly precise secret within its frosty patterns. By deeply analysing the exact size of the most prominent temperature spots, scientists can measure the physical geometry of the early void. This geometric data acts as a highly calibrated cosmic clock, ticking steadily backward to the very first moment of expansion. Decoding this complex visual data has provided humanity with the absolute most accurate age of the universe we have ever calculated. The math derived from these ancient thermal ripples pins the dawn of creation precisely at 13.8 billion years ago. This is not a vague estimate, but a rigorously tested measurement extracted directly from the oldest physical evidence available to science. All the philosophical debates and theoretical models regarding the timeline of reality are ultimately silenced by the undeniable truth of this ancient light. The speckled oval map serves as the ultimate historical document, a definitive birth certificate for the entirety of existence. It is the final irrefutable word on exactly how long the grand dark ocean of the cosmos has been expanding into the void. This expansion into the void was far from silent. Instead, it was a cacophony of physical force that would be felt as a deep, resonant vibration in the chest. Before the first light escaped its plasma cage, the entire cosmos existed as a thick, scorching fluid, where matter and energy were indistinguishably fused together. This dense medium allowed for the propagation of actual pressure waves, true sound, on a scale that dwarfs any terrestrial thunderstorm. These waves did not merely drift through the void, they roared through the primordial plasma, driven by the intense heat and density of a universe in labour. Because the universe was a single, connected medium at the time, these sound waves travelled at nearly the speed of light, carrying information and energy across the expanding sphere. If an ear could have existed in that pre-stellar epoch, it would have been deafened by the relentless churning rhythm of the universe's earliest mechanical energy. This was not a void of silence, but a theatre of pure, unadulterated vibration, where the first physical structures were being hammered into existence by the pressure of sound itself. It was the heavy, rhythmic heartbeat of a reality that was just beginning to realise its own vast potential. The entire sky was a medium for these massive ripples, conducting the first physical interactions of the infant cosmos. Deep within this boiling primordial cauldron, two titanic forces engaged in a violent multi-millennial struggle that defined the architecture of everything to come. Gravity, the silent and patient architect, worked tirelessly to pull the cooling matter into dense, compact knots and filaments. Opposing this inward collapse was the fierce outward push of light itself, the intense radiation pressure exerted by countless trapped photons. As gravity compressed a pocket of plasma, the internal pressure would skyrocket, causing the trapped light to shove the matter back outward in a massive energetic rebound. This constant rhythmic cycle of compression and expansion functioned like a cosmic piston, generating the primary energy of the early cosmos. This epic tug-of-war was not a chaotic mess, but a highly structured oscillation that occurred simultaneously throughout the entire universe. It was a balance of power between the darkness of mass and the brilliance of light, a conflict that ensured matter would not simply collapse into black holes immediately after the Big Bang. This struggle created a dynamic, pulsing environment where the very medium of space was being stretched and squeezed in a synchronized display of physical might. This rhythmic battle is the source of the thermal patterns we now detect in the deep sky. Surprisingly, this relentless rhythmic pulsing transformed the entire infant universe into a colossal, ringing bell of unimaginable proportions. As the tug-of-war between gravity and radiation pressure reached a steady state, it produced massive acoustic oscillations that vibrated through every corner of existence. These were not random or discordant noises, but structured, resonant waves that defined the physical limits and density of the early space. The cosmos was essentially singing its first song, a deep and resonant vibration that dictated the shape of the medium it travelled through. Every time a wave reached its peak compression, it left a mark of heat, and every time it hit its maximum expansion, it left a mark of cold. This ringing was the fundamental mechanism that translated the random energy of the Big Bang into the structured patterns we see today. It was the universe's way of organizing itself, using the physics of sound to establish a baseline of order amidst the initial chaos. This grand resonance ensured that the early universe was not just a cloud of gas, but a vibrating instrument of creation, perfectly tuned to the laws of physics. The entire sphere of reality echoed with the force of these massive fundamental frequencies. If we were to look closer at the precise moment the universe became transparent, we would see the exact instant this symphony was silenced. When the ambient temperature finally dropped enough for stable atoms to form, the fierce outward pressure of the trapped light suddenly vanished. The plasma that had acted as a thick conductive medium for sound waves abruptly turned into a thin neutral gas. In a single, breathtaking cosmological heartbeat, the massive vibrations that had dominated the universe for hundreds of thousands of years were frozen in place. The sound waves could no longer travel because the medium required to carry them had fundamentally changed its nature. It was as if a conductor had suddenly frozen an entire orchestra mid-note, leaving the sound waves suspended in the fabric of the cosmos. These frozen waves were no longer moving through space, but had become a permanent part of the universe's structural foundation. This transition marked the end of the acoustic era and the beginning of the era of light, where the echoes of sound were preserved as subtle variations in temperature. The music died out, but the sheet music was etched into the very sky we observe today. This magnificent structure of sound did not truly vanish, but was instead translated into a permanent visual record that we can now study with our satellites. As you rest your weight against the Earth and feel the deep, resonant vibration of the world around you, consider that your very stillness is grounded in this ancient history. The temperature fluctuations we map today are the direct fossilized imprints of those ancient acoustic waves that once roared through the plasma. We are essentially looking at a sonogram of the very beginning of time, where each red and blue ripple is a captured note from the first symphony. The map of the cosmic microwave background is the ultimate sheet music, recording the exact frequency and intensity of the universe's birth cries. Every peak in the temperature map corresponds to a point where a sound wave was at its most compressed, and every valley marks where it was most expanded. By looking at these patterns, we're not just seeing light, we're hearing the physical vibrations of the Big Bang through the lens of time. It is a visual translation of a physical event, a bridge between the world of sound and the world of vision. The ancient sky is a record of a roar that was silenced billions of years before the first star was born. Analysing the specific diameter of the largest temperature spots on our maps reveals the deepest fundamental pitch of the entire creation. This primary note represents the maximum distance a sound wave could possibly travel through the plasma before the universe became transparent. It acts as a baseline frequency, a foundational tone upon which all other subsequent cosmic structures were inevitably built. By measuring the physical scale of these massive spots, we are effectively hearing the very first note tuned by the universe at the start of its performance. This fundamental pitch is not just a mathematical curiosity, it is a physical constant that tells us how fast the early universe was expanding. It sets the scale for the largest structures in the cosmos, determining why galaxy superclusters are the size they are today. If the sound of the early universe had been higher or lower in pitch, the entire distribution of matter in the night sky would look fundamentally different. This deep foundational resonance is the heartbeat of the cosmos, a singular note that has echoed across 13 billion years. It is the scale on which the entire architecture of the modern universe is measured and built. The smaller, more intricate speckles observed on the cosmic map correspond mathematically to the overtones and higher harmonics of that primary baseline sound. Just as a violin string produces a complex, rich timbre through secondary vibrations that occur alongside the main note, the early universe vibrated in multiple layers simultaneously. These overtones provide the incredibly rich detail found in the power spectrum of the cosmic background radiation. They represent the shorter, faster pulses that carved out the smaller scale regions of matter, leading to the formation of individual galaxies and star clusters. Without these higher frequency vibrations, the universe would be a much simpler, blander place, lacking the intricate complexity we observe in the modern sky. Each harmonic tells a different story about the composition of the early universe, such as the exact amount of dark matter present. These secondary notes are the fine brushstrokes on the cosmic canvas, adding the depth and texture necessary for a functioning, star-filled reality. The interplay between the fundamental note and these harmonics is what makes the cosmic microwave background the most detailed dataset in all of science. They are the hidden complexities within the noise, revealing the ingredients of our cosmic recipe. This intricate structure of harmonics allows us to decipher the exact physical geometry of the fabric of space itself with staggering precision. By treating the fundamental sound wave as a standard ruler, scientists can effectively triangulate the curvature of the entire observable cosmos. If the fabric of space were curved like a sphere, the ancient sound waves would appear magnified or distorted as they travelled toward our detectors. Similarly, if the universe were shaped like a saddle, these visual notes would appear smaller and more squeezed than they actually are. The symphony acts as an infallible geometric guide, revealing the invisible theatre in which all of reality has been performing since the beginning. Because the light from these waves has travelled across the entire history of the universe, it carries the marks of every curve and warp in the vacuum. By measuring the exact angular size of the spots on the map, we're essentially performing a giant geometric proof on a universal scale. It is a way of seeing the shape of the invisible by listening to the echoes of the ancient frozen sound. This geometric clarity is the only way we can be certain of the vast distances that separate us from the edge of reality. The specific, carefully measured mix of these ancient harmonics definitively proves that our observable universe is perfectly and beautifully flat. Take a moment to feel the absolute stillness in your limbs and the steady balance of your body, a state of equilibrium that matches this cosmic flatness. Because the ripples on the cosmic map appear exactly the size that the laws of physics predict for a non-curved space, we know that light has travelled in perfectly straight lines for billions of years. In this flat reality, parallel lines will never meet or diverge, stretching on into the infinite dark in a state of perfect Euclidean grace. This flatness is a profound mystery, as it requires the density of the universe to be exactly at a critical sweet spot where gravity and expansion are in balance. If the universe were even slightly more or less dense, the geometry would have warped into a different shape long ago. The fact that we inhabit a flat universe means that our calculations of distance and time across the cosmos are remarkably reliable and consistent. It is a structural stability that allows the universe to expand forever without collapsing back on itself or flying apart too violently. We live on a cosmic plane that was levelled by the very sound waves of the beginning. This silent music has resonated through the eons, leaving a permanent structural record of the universe's explosive and melodic first notes. The sound waves that once rang through the scorching plasma dictated the eventual distribution of every single galaxy, nebula, and star cluster we see in the night sky. We are the living, breathing resonance of that ancient symphony, built upon the crests of waves that have long since stopped their physical movement. Every time you look at the large-scale structure of the cosmic web, you are seeing the fossilized peaks of these ancient acoustic oscillations. The structure of the stars is the final lingering echo of the universe's first breath, a physical memory of the time when space itself was a vibrating instrument. Even as the light fades and the universe expands, this structural record remains written into the very placement of the galaxies. The symphony of the Big Bang was not just a fleeting event, but the definitive blueprint for the entire history of material reality. We are the audience and the outcome of a performance that began billions of years ago and continues to resonate in every atom of our being. The speckled oval map serves as the ultimate historical document, a definitive birth certificate for the entirety of existence. It is the final, irrefutable word on exactly how long the grand, dark ocean of the cosmos has been expanding into the void. The light expanding into the void carries a secret geometry, a hidden alignment that goes far beyond mere brightness or colour. While we often think of light as a simple, unorganised stream of energy, these ancient waves possess a distinct and coordinated physical orientation. As they travel through the freezing vacuum, they vibrate in specific directions, a phenomenon that reveals the structural intent of the early cosmos. This orientation is not a random occurrence, but a signature that was woven into the light at the moment of its liberation. Imagine light as a cosmic thread that is not just long, but possesses a specific angle and width as it weaves through the fabric of space. This characteristic allows us to see how the light was pushed and pulled by the infant universe, providing a much deeper layer of information than a standard thermal map. By analysing this alignment, we can perceive the subtle textures of the early cosmos that remain invisible to conventional sensors. It is the difference between simply seeing a static photograph and feeling the literal grain of the material within the frame. This hidden property of light is a silent witness to the most violent and transformative events in our history. This hidden alignment was forged in the final, chaotic moments of the Great Clearing, during the very last collisions between light and matter. As the first atoms successfully assembled, the final free electrons acted as microscopic filters, scattering the photons in a manner that permanently fixed their vibrational direction. This last scattering was a singular, irreversible event that transformed an unorganized glow into a highly structured field of energy. The photons that escaped the cooling plasma were effectively branded by their final interaction with the material world. Because the plasma was moving and flowing in response to massive gravitational forces, the light was polarized in patterns that reflected that underlying motion. This means every ancient photon reaching our detectors today carries a direct and uncorrupted memory of the last physical obstacle it ever touched. We are able to decode these memories to understand the exact physical conditions of the universe during its transition from opacity to transparency. It is a form of cosmic archaeology, where the artifacts are not made of stone but of oriented electromagnetic waves. This process allows us to reconstruct the final breaths of the infant universe with startling precision. Measuring this intricate polarized alignment allows us to construct a dynamic, three-dimensional perspective of the infant universe that a simple temperature map could never reveal. While heat variations show us where the matter was, this polarization tells us exactly how that matter was moving and flowing in the moments before the cosmos became clear. It provides the velocity and direction of the primordial fluids, turning a flat baby picture into a living, breathing model of cosmic motion. By mapping these vibrational directions across the entire sky, we can see the literal currents of the ancient plasma as it swirled into the first gravitational wells. We're no longer just looking at a static snapshot of density, but a high-definition recording of the internal dynamics of the beginning. This extra dimension of data allows researchers to test their most complex theories about how gravity and pressure interacted at the dawn of time. This depth of information is essential for understanding how the first structures gained the momentum necessary to eventually form the galaxies we see today. It is a way of seeing the invisible wind of the early universe as it shaped the clouds of primordial gas. The polarization of the background radiation is the ultimate record of the universe's first physical movements. As you settle into a deeper state of relaxation, feeling the subtle, rhythmic flow of blood through your own veins, recognize that the universe also possesses distinct circulating patterns of energy. Within the sea of polarized light, scientists have identified two entirely separate and unique mathematical signatures that describe the orientation of the waves. These are known as E modes and B modes, each representing a fundamentally different way that light can be twisted and oriented by the forces of nature. E modes are characterized by simple, linear patterns that radiate outward or circle inward like the spokes of a cosmic wheel. In contrast, B-modes possess a far more complex and elusive geometry, manifesting as subtle, swirling curls that break the symmetry of the light field. These two modes represent the dual nature of cosmic information, capturing both the direct pressures and the hidden, twisting forces of the early vacuum. Understanding the distinction between these two patterns is the key to unlocking the deepest secrets of the Big Bang. They are the primary and secondary signals of our origin, encoded into the very light that surrounds us. Every square inch of the sky is filled with these overlapping invisible designs, waiting to be read by our most sensitive instruments. The E-modes were the first of these hidden patterns to be successfully detected, finally coming to light in the early years of the third millennium. They are the direct, elegant byproduct of the same massive density ripples that created the temperature spots we have already explored. When the primordial sound waves compressed the plasma, they naturally oriented the escaping light into these simple, radial patterns. Because they are so closely tied to the density of matter, E-modes provide a powerful confirmation of our existing models of the early universe. They act as a secondary, independent verification of the thermal data, proving that our maps of the ancient sky are not just artifacts of random noise. Their discovery was a triumphant moment for science, confirming that the universe followed a predictable and highly structured set of physical rules. This signal is strong enough to be detected by modern orbital observatories, providing a reliable baseline for all other polarization studies. It reinforces the idea that the universe is an orderly and measurable system, even at its most extreme limits. The E-modes are the clear and resonant voice of the early universe's material structure. In contrast to the straightforward spokes of the E-modes, the B-modes feature a subtle, twisting, pinwheel-like pattern that is buried incredibly deep within the background radiation. These swirling curls are much fainter and harder to detect, requiring instruments of almost impossible sensitivity to isolate from the surrounding electronic noise. They represent a much more exotic and rare form of cosmic information, one that speaks of twists in the very fabric of space and time. If E-modes are the straight lines of the cosmic blueprint, then B-modes are the hidden spirals and curls that hint at much more violent and profound origins. These patterns break the standard mirror symmetry of the sky, creating a handedness in the light that suggests something very strange was happening during the initial expansion. Detecting these elusive pinwheels requires looking past the overwhelming brilliance of the stars and the dust of our own galaxy. They are the faint whispers of a story that has been almost entirely erased by the passage of billions of years. To find them is to search for a needle in a haystack made of light, a task that pushes the limits of human ingenuity and patience. The B-mode pattern is the final, most difficult layer of the cosmic map to be revealed. Surprisingly, as the ancient light travels through the vastness of the modern universe, its delicate polarization can be subtly altered by the presence of massive structures. When polarized photons pass near a colossal cluster of galaxies, the intense gravitational field of that matter can physically bend and twist the light's orientation. This process, known as gravitational lensing, has the power to transform simple E-mode patterns into the more complex swirling B-mode curls. As you remain perfectly still, feeling the weight of the world resting easily upon you, consider how even the oldest light is moved by the presence of mass. These lensed B-modes act as a cosmic shadow, revealing the distribution of all the matter, including invisible dark matter, that the light has passed on its journey. By carefully mapping these secondary twists, astronomers can weigh the massive structures that occupy the foreground of our view. It is a way of using the oldest light in the universe to illuminate the dark, hidden scaffolding that currently holds the galaxies together. This interaction proves that the cosmic background is not just a distant backdrop, but an active participant in the physics of the modern era. We use these twists as a cosmic magnifying glass to peer into the hearts of the largest structures in existence. While lensing creates one type of B-mode, the ultimate prize is the detection of primordial B-modes generated by the Big Bang itself. These unique curls would be the direct result of massive ancient gravitational waves, ripples in the fabric of space-time, that were launched during the era of cosmic inflation. Finding this specific signal would provide the definitive smoking gun evidence for the fastest and most violent expansion in the history of reality. These gravitational waves would have physically squeezed and stretched space as the first photons were being released, leaving a permanent twisted signature in their polarization. It would be a direct message from the very first trillionth of a second of existence, bypassing all the intervening matter and light. This would allow us to peer back to a moment in time that was previously thought to be forever hidden behind the opaque wall of the early plasma. The existence of these waves is predicted by the most successful theories of the early universe, but they have never been directly observed in the background radiation. Their detection would be a milestone in human understanding, connecting the physics of the beginning to the geometry of the present. They are the ripples from the very first stone thrown into the pond of existence. Searching for these incredibly faint, twisted light waves requires the most sensitive and sophisticated instruments ever built by human hands. Because the signal is so weak and easily obscured by the Earth's own atmosphere, these telescopes must be stationed in the coldest, driest, and most isolated places on our planet. The vast, frozen plateau of the South Pole provides the perfect window, offering an atmosphere that is almost completely free of the water vapour that absorbs microwave radiation. In this harsh, otherworldly environment, dedicated teams of scientists work through the long polar night to maintain these delicate sensors. The telescopes must be cooled to temperatures just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero to ensure their own internal heat does not drown out the ancient cosmic signal. It is a monumental human effort, pushing the boundaries of technology to catch a whisper that has travelled from the edge of time. This pursuit is a testament to our species' relentless drive to explore the unknown, even at the ends of the Earth. We endure the most extreme conditions imaginable just to catch a glimpse of a pattern that was set in motion billions of years ago. The South Pole is our modern temple of cosmic observation, a place where we listen for the faintest echoes of creation. Unlocking the deep secrets of this polarized light is widely considered to be the ultimate holy grail of modern observational cosmology. Successfully isolating the primordial B-mode signal would not only confirm the theory of inflation, but would also provide a direct link between the physics of the very large and the very small. It would be a historic breakthrough, comparable to the discovery of the background radiation itself, and would likely earn its discoverers the highest honours in science. As you remain in your state of quiet contemplation, consider how this quest reflects our deepest human desire to understand our origins. We are building massive machines in the most desolate places on Earth just to see a subtle twist in a light that is nearly as old as time itself. This pursuit represents the pinnacle of our cosmic curiosity, a final attempt to read the very first page of the story of the universe. The mystery of polarization is the final frontier in our mapping of the baby universe, the last piece of the puzzle that remains to be solved. When we finally decode these hidden twists, we will have a complete and unclouded view of our birth. Until then, the polarized light continues to bathe us in its secret geometry, a silent and beckoning mystery expanding into the void. As the ancient light glides through the silent and beckoning mystery of the void, it does not travel through a truly empty desert. Instead, the photons must navigate the labyrinthine structures of the modern universe, crossing through the immense invisible clouds of hot gas that cling to massive galaxy clusters. These pockets of atmosphere represent the densest concentration of matter in the cosmos, yet they remain nearly transparent to our human eyes. This gas is so incredibly hot that it glows fiercely in X-rays, yet it occupies the vast, lonely spaces between individual galaxies within a cluster. As the primordial light from the Big Bang encounters these regions, it is forced to interact with the material history of the modern era. The light which has travelled for billions of years across the pristine vacuum suddenly finds itself passing through the bustling, energetic centres of the largest gravitational structures in existence. It is a meeting of two different cosmic epochs, where the ancient signature of the beginning is subtly rewritten by the massive objects of the present day. This passage through the hot gas ensures that the light arriving at our detectors carries not just a message from the start, but also a record of the obstacles it has overcome. We are witnessing a physical dialogue between the infant universe and the mature structures that have since risen to dominate the void. Deep within these colossal clusters, a violent and microscopic drama unfolds as the ancient radiation encounters a swarming cloud of high-energy electrons. These subatomic particles, heated to millions of degrees, zip through the cluster's gas at incredible speeds, creating a restless and energetic fog. When a slow, cold photon from the afterglow ventures into this frenetic territory, it inevitably suffers a series of direct high-speed collisions. The electrons, energized by the massive gravitational collapse of the cluster, act as hyperactive obstacles that the ancient light cannot simply bypass. Each interaction is a discrete event of energy exchange, where the tiny, cold particle of light is struck by a much more energetic, charged particle of matter. This is not a gentle passing, but a transformative encounter that fundamentally alters the character of the light. The density of these electrons is relatively low, yet over the vast distances of a galaxy cluster, these encounters become statistically certain. This microscopic billiard game occurs across millions of light years, ensuring that a significant portion of the background light is touched by the heat of the cluster. It is a subtle, invisible friction that marks the light with the heat of the modern universe. Surprisingly, this invisible impact acts as a sudden and powerful boost of energy for the ancient light, physically kicking the photons to a much higher frequency. This interaction, known as inverse Compton scattering, shifts the light right out of the microwave spectrum and into higher energy bands. Consequently, the original signal that has travelled for billions of years is permanently altered by its brief passage through these massive celestial cities. The photons, which were previously vibrating at the long cold frequencies of the microwave background, gain a second life as higher energy particles. This shift represents a gain in intensity that makes these specific photons stand out against the uniform, frozen hum of the rest of the sky. It is as if a cold breeze was suddenly passed through a furnace, emerging on the other side with a fierce, renewed heat. By the time these boosted photons reach our detectors, they no longer represent the simple temperature of the early universe. Instead, they carry a dual identity, reflecting both their primordial origin and the extreme temperature of the gas they just traversed. This energy boost is the fundamental mechanism that allows us to see through the glow and find the massive objects hiding within. When we point our detectors toward these distant clusters, this localized energy shift manifests as a tiny, distinct, and dark shadow cast against the glowing backdrop of the early universe. It is as if a massive, ghostly ship has slowly passed in front of a distant, glowing lighthouse, momentarily obscuring the primordial brilliance. These shadows are not caused by dust or opaque objects, but by the subtle redirection of light's energy within the hot gas. Because the photons have been shifted to higher frequencies, there are fewer photons remaining in the original microwave band we're measuring. This creates a localized deficit of light, a hole in the cosmic background that perfectly matches the silhouette of the galaxy cluster. The effect is a negative image, a silhouette formed not by darkness, but by a surplus of energy that has moved out of view. As you remain still, feeling the steady support of the ground beneath you, contemplate the vast scale of these celestial silhouettes. They are the largest shadows in existence, stretching across millions of light years of space and time. They reveal the presence of hidden giants that would otherwise remain invisible in the deep, uniform wash of the ancient glow. Known to scientists as the Sunyaev-Zeldovich effect, this elegant mechanism provides a revolutionary way to discover hidden structures lurking in the darkest depths of the cosmos. Even if a galaxy cluster is too distant or too faint to be seen by its own starlight, it cannot hide the signature shadow it leaves on the cosmic background. This effect serves as an infallible trap for the most massive objects in the universe, revealing their presence through the light they distort. This technique has turned the entire microwave sky into a massive hunter's map, where every dark dimple represents a gargantuan concentration of matter. It bypasses the limitations of traditional telescopes that rely on capturing the faint flickering light of individual stars. Instead of looking for what is there, we are looking for the mark left by what is there upon the light of the beginning. This discovery method has allowed astronomers to find some of the most distant and massive structures in the observable universe. It is a testament to the power of indirect observation, where the shadows of the past illuminate the hidden giants of the present. The Sunyaev-Zeldovich effect is our most powerful tool for cataloguing the true weight of the cosmic landscape. Unlike the flickering starlight of distant galaxies, which inevitably grows dimmer and harder to see as it traverses the immense distance of the void, these specific cosmic shadows remain remarkably constant. Because the background light is already everywhere, the depth of the shadow depends solely on the properties of the cluster itself, not its distance from our telescopes. This creates a unique window into the past where the far reaches of space are just as accessible as our own galactic neighbourhood. A galaxy cluster located billions of light years away will cast a shadow just as dark and distinct as a cluster right on our doorstep. This independence from distance is a nearly unique property in astronomy, where almost everything else fades into obscurity as it recedes into the dark. It provides us with a standard metric that remains reliable regardless of the cosmic expansion. This constancy allows us to compare clusters across different eras of time with absolute precision. We can see how the massive structures of the early universe differ from those of the modern age, without worrying about the light's travel time. These shadows are the only features of the sky that refuse to fade with the distance of the void. This means that we can detect ancient clusters of galaxies perched at the very edge of the observable universe with the same clarity as those nearby. It allows us to hunt for the earliest massive structures ever formed, searching for the first heavy weights that began to warp the fabric of reality. We are no longer limited by the reach of conventional light, using the shadow play of the beginning to map the far horizon. By peering into these distant shadows, we are effectively watching the birth of the largest structural elements in the universe. We can observe how the first galaxy clusters grew from the tiny density ripples of the microwave background into the colossal cities of stars they are today. This capability transforms the ancient afterglow into a massive backlight that reveals the evolution of the entire cosmos. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes into the present, recognize that this technique provides a bridge across the billions of years of cosmic history. It allows us to see the very first foundations of the cosmic web as they were being laid down in the deep dark. These edge-of-the-universe detections are the ultimate frontiers of our structural understanding. Mapping these shadows with high precision allows us to trace the intricate filaments of the colossal cosmic web, the invisible scaffolding of dark matter that holds the universe together. The hot gas that casts these shadows naturally pools within the gravitational wells of this dark matter, acting as a luminous tracer for the most mysterious substance in existence. By following the shadows, we reveal the hidden skeleton of the cosmos, the structural logic that dictates where galaxies must congregate. The shadows are the footprints of an invisible giant, marking the nodes where the filaments of the cosmic web intersect. These intersections are where the most massive clusters reside, acting as the anchors for the entire architectural framework of reality. Without the ancient light to cast these shadows, the majority of this scaffolding would remain forever hidden from our sight. We use this information to build massive simulations of how the universe grows and changes over time. Every shadow detected is a data point that confirms the underlying presence of dark matter's gravity. The afterglow provides the contrast we need to see the invisible hand that shapes the distribution of all matter. Hundreds of previously unknown and massive celestial structures have been identified simply by looking for what is blocking the ancient uniform light of creation. Each new discovery adds another piece to the grand puzzle of cosmic evolution, helping us understand how the universe transitioned from a smooth, hot soup into a complex web of matter. These shadows represent the missing links in our history, the massive foundations upon which our own galactic home was eventually built. Entire superclusters, containing thousands of individual galaxies, have been brought to light through this method of detection. They were lurking in the deep background, too far and too dim for our most powerful optical telescopes to resolve. Yet, they could not escape the shadow they cast on the primordial glow that fills every inch of the sky. This ongoing census of the cosmic landscape is rewriting our understanding of how densely populated the universe truly is. It reveals a cosmos that is much more interconnected and structurally complex than we ever imagined. Each shadow is a testament to the hidden abundance of the void, waiting to be revealed by the light of the beginning. These invisible, transformative interactions humbly remind us that the light of creation touches absolutely everything it passes on its long journey to our eyes. No matter how isolated or distant a galaxy may seem, it is irrevocably bathed in the same primordial glow that surrounds our own planet. This ancient radiation acts as a universal connective tissue, linking the absolute beginning of time to every massive structure currently drifting through the dark. It is a profound realization that the same photons hitting your television antenna have also been struck by the hot gas of a million distant galaxies. The universe is not a collection of isolated islands, but a single, integrated system where every part interacts with the legacy of its origin. This light is the common denominator of all existence, a constant presence that bridges the gap between the subatomic and the gargantuan. As you finish this journey into the shadows, let the sense of cosmic connection stay with you. You are part of a structure that is constantly being touched by the oldest light in existence, a light that holds the story of every obstacle it has ever met. The shadows in the afterglow are not voids, but a vibrant testament to the incredible journey of the universe as it continues expanding into the void. This incredible journey through the expanding void is often perceived as a slow and silent drift, yet the ancient light reveals a massive hidden asymmetry across the heavens. When we gaze upon a complete map of the cosmos, a striking contrast emerges that divides the entire celestial sphere into two distinct halves. One hemisphere of the deep sky appears slightly more energetic and warmer, while the exact opposite direction reveals a pervasive matching chill. Like the rush of physical wind against your face while riding a fast-moving open train, this global temperature gradient tells us something profound about our place in the stream. It is a broad, sweeping imbalance that dominates the raw data, painting the universe in two different thermal shades. This overarching pattern is the most obvious feature of the microwave sky, a giant dipole that spans the infinite distance. We're not merely observing the background, we're experiencing it through the filter of our own high-speed velocity. This global division acts as a cosmic signature of direction, a primary feature of the sky that must be understood before the deeper secrets of the beginning can be seen. It is the first and most dominant brushstroke on the canvas of the microwave sky, indicating our specific path through the dark. Surprisingly, this global divide is not a physical property of the early universe itself, nor does it represent a true imbalance in the fires of creation. The primordial fog did not cool unevenly, nor was one side of the infant cosmos inherently more violent than the other. Instead, this sweeping thermal difference is an intricate illusion, a byproduct of our own physical relationship with the surrounding space. We are not passive observers standing still in a static gallery, but active participants hurtling through the cosmic medium. Our perspective is fundamentally skewed by the relentless speed at which our home is traversing the vacuum. The perceived warmth and chill are merely the result of our own momentum as we plough through the ancient sea of photons. If we were truly at rest relative to the background radiation, the entire sky would appear perfectly uniform in temperature across both halves. The existence of this dipole is the clearest proof that we are in a state of high-speed transit. It is a visual trick of physics, a mirage created by the simple act of moving through the light that has filled the void since the dawn of time. Deep within the quiet local neighbourhood of our own solar system, we feel as though we are resting in a tranquil harbour. However, the ancient light tells a far more kinetic story, revealing that our entire celestial family is hurtling through the void at a staggering pace. Every planet, moon, and asteroid is being dragged along on a high-speed journey that far exceeds our ability to perceive. Our entire solar system is hurtling through space, dragging the Earth along at roughly 370 kilometers per second, relative to the ancient light. This velocity is so extreme that it makes the orbital movements of the planets around the Sun seem like a gentle crawl. We're travelling as a single, coordinated unit, cutting a path through the interstellar medium with incredible silent force. This invisible speed is measured against the only stable backdrop in existence, the ancient glow that fills the room of the universe. Even as we drift through our daily lives, we are part of a massive, silent projectile cutting through the fabric of space. We are passengers on a galactic ship that never slows down, racing toward a destination hidden in the deep dark. As we blindly rush toward the light in one direction, the waves are physically compressed, shifting them to a slightly higher, warmer frequency. Just as the sound of an approaching siren rises in pitch, the microwave photons we are racing toward are physically squeezed by our encounter. This compression increases their energy, making that half of the sky appear slightly more vibrant to our senses. It is the cosmic equivalent of the wind pressing harder against your skin the faster you travel. This direction of travel is marked by a subtle but undeniable brightening of the ancient afterglow, a thermal signpost indicating our exact trajectory. We are physically leaning into the light of the beginning, feeling the pressure of eons as we surge forward. Take a moment to feel the weight of your body pressing into your seat, a small echo of the immense momentum carrying you through the stars. This blue shift is the physical manifestation of our arrival, a constant interaction with the past. Every second we are colliding with light that has been waiting billions of years for this meeting. Looking back the way we came, the passing light waves are stretched out, appearing noticeably redder and cooler to our instruments. These photons are being left behind in our wake, and this physical separation causes their wavelengths to elongate into a lower, less energetic frequency. In this direction, the universe appears slightly more lethargic, reflecting the distance we're putting between ourselves and our point of origin. It is a profound thermal trail, a shadow of our departure etched into the oldest signal we can detect. This cooling effect perfectly balances the warmth of our leading edge, creating a symmetrical record of our passage through the deep vacuum. The entire sky becomes a stretched and squeezed map of our specific path through the cosmic ocean. This structure provides the ultimate cosmic reference frame to measure our true speed through the universe with absolute precision. In a world where almost everything is in relative motion, the microwave background acts as a stationary anchor, a fixed sea of light against which all true velocity can be gauged. By analysing the Doppler effect of these ancient waves, we can calculate our absolute motion with a certainty that was previously thought impossible. It is the only speedometer that doesn't rely on landmarks or local objects, but on the very embers of creation itself. We are measuring our movement against the birth of time, using the first light as a global positioning system for our entire galaxy. This thermal dipole is the compass that orientates our entire existence within the grand architecture of the void. Knowing our speed against this backdrop allows us to understand the grand movements of the cosmos as a whole. It provides a baseline of reality that remains constant across billions of years. We have finally found the absolute zero point of motion in an ever-expanding universe, a fixed point in an infinite sea of change. We are moving so fast because the gravitational pull of a massive distant supercluster is forcefully dragging the entire Milky Way towards it. This invisible tug-of-war has been accelerating our motion for billions of years, dictating the grand flow of matter across the cosmic web. We are currently caught in the wake of a gargantuan structure that dwarfs our own galaxy, a hidden giant whose influence shapes the very temperature of our sky. This massive attractor is hidden behind the dense clouds of our own galactic plane, yet its presence is undeniable in the way it pulls our neighbourhood through the dark. We're falling through space on a trajectory determined by the heaviest weights in the observable universe. This movement is not random, but is part of a grand celestial migration toward a distant centre of mass. Surprisingly, the entire local group of galaxies is travelling in unison, drawn by this same immense gravitational force. We are part of a river of matter flowing toward a destination we may never actually reach. Our high-speed journey is the result of the universe's larger-scale architecture, a response to the deepest wells of gravity in existence. Removing this bright dipole glare from our maps was the crucial first step required to see the fainter, true ancient spots hiding beneath. Before we can study the delicate ripples of the early universe, we must mathematically strip away this massive artificial contrast created by our own motion. It is a necessary act of cosmic filtration, removing the influence of our local journey to reveal the pristine truth of the beginning. Only after this global temperature difference is meticulously erased can the fainter, true ancient spots finally emerge from the noise. It is like cleaning a dusty window to finally see the intricate garden outside. We must look past our own movement to see the universe as it truly was. This process of subtraction is what allows cosmologists to map the quantum seeds of the cosmos with such staggering fidelity. As you breathe, notice how the air around you seems still, even while you're being carried on this immense high-speed journey. This internal stillness is a gift of biology, allowing us to function while our external environment is in a state of violent transit. The map of the early universe is only clear once we acknowledge our own role in the observation, realizing that the oldest light in existence acts as a universal speedometer has completely revolutionized how we understand our local galactic trajectory. We no longer view our place in the universe as a stationary island, but as a fast-moving vessel navigating a complex network of gravitational currents. This discovery has turned the entire sky into a laboratory for studying the grand motions of the cosmos on the largest possible scales. It provides a context for our history that stretches far beyond the formation of our planet, linking our current path to the distribution of matter at the start of time. We are tracing the flow of an immense river of galaxies, using the ancient background glow to gauge the strength of the tides. This speedometer is the final word on how we fit into the moving machinery of the infinite void. The trajectory of the Milky Way is now a known quantity, a path through the dark that can be projected into the distant future. We are no longer lost in the vacuum, but have a clearly defined heading relative to the birth of the universe. This realization anchors our identity in the physical flow of the cosmos, giving us a sense of place in the grand design. Even as we sit completely still on Earth, the shifting global glow of the cosmos proves we're on an incredibly fast journey through the void. The cosmic microwave background is the ultimate witness to our momentum, a silent evidence of a speed that would destroy any physical object we could build. We are part of a grand celestial migration that encompasses everything we have ever known and every star we have ever seen. Our lives are lived at the centre of a silent, high-speed projectile, racing through an ancient sea of light that has been waiting for us since the beginning. The dipole is the physical manifestation of our transit, a thermal signature of our presence in a universe that is constantly moving. We are never truly at rest, but are always surging forward into the unknown reaches of the expanding dark. This journey is the shared experience of all matter, a relentless push toward the future that began with a single, explosive breath. The ancient light remains the only constant companion on this trip, a fading glow that illuminates our path through the infinite. We are racing toward the end of time, carried by the momentum of the start. The ancient light remains the only constant companion on this trip, a fading glow that illuminates our path through the infinite. Yet there was a time when even this light felt like a distant, dying memory. Once the momentum of the start had dissipated, and the first clear radiation had surged past. The universe was plunged into an epoch of absolute starless shadow known as the Dark Ages. For millions of years there were no burning suns to pierce the gloom, no galaxies to swirl in the void, and no observers to witness the deepening chill of an expanding reality. This period was the ultimate interval of stillness, a time when the universe had cooled enough to become transparent, but had not yet gathered the strength to ignite its own light. The ancient photons were racing away at the speed of light, leaving behind a vast, dark theatre that was growing larger and emptier with every passing second. In this long, starless night, the cosmos was a quiet nursery of cold gas, holding its breath in a state of pure, unmanifested potential. It was an era defined by what was missing: the absence of fire, the lack of heavy elements, and the total silence of a world that had not yet learned how to scream. This vast, expanding expanse was not truly empty, but was instead filled with a ghost-like neutral hydrogen fog that occupied the entire volume of space. It drifted through the cooling void as a pervasive, invisible mist, a primordial soup that had finally settled into a stable state after the initial chaotic heat had subsided. This fog was the raw material of the future, composed of simple atoms that had only recently found one another in the clearing dark. Because the universe was still relatively dense, these atoms were never truly far apart, yet they lacked the energy to interact in any meaningful way. They were the silent participants in a cosmic drifting cooling toward the absolute zero of the void, without any source of warmth to sustain them. This neutral gas was the first true medium of the universe, a uniform blanket that smoothed out the rough edges of the initial expansion. It waited in total, unbroken darkness, a cold and drifting ocean of hydrogen and helium that held the seeds of every star and planet within its invisible shifting currents. Surprisingly, the only source of light during this long and lonely night was the ancient afterglow itself, though it was rapidly fading into a deep, infrared dimness that no human eye could ever perceive. As the fabric of space stretched further apart, these primordial photons grew longer and redder, losing their energy to the relentless expansion of the vacuum. They were becoming a weak and weary illumination, a ghost of the fire that had once dominated the entire sky. If you feel the slight weight of your hands resting on your lap and the gentle pull of the earth beneath you, imagine that same subtle pressure of space-time stretching the very light out of existence. This fading radiation was the only thing moving through the dark, a constant companion that grew more tired with every million years that passed. It was the only witness to the silence of the Dark Ages, a faint and ever-dimming backlight that would eventually become the microwave hum we detect today. This light was the memory of the beginning, slowly turning into a whisper as the universe grew colder and more vast. Deep within this pitch-black void, invisible gravity worked with an incredible and silent patience that spanned hundreds of millions of years. It began to slowly gather the drifting hydrogen atoms into massive cold clouds, pulling them from the darkness into concentrated pockets of potential energy. These were the first tremors of structure, organized entirely in secret by a force that needed no light to see its work or its progress. Gravity acted as a tireless laborer in the dark, finding the tiny density ripples left over from the start and magnifying them into colossal mountains of gas. As these clouds grew heavier, they began to warp the space around them, creating deep gravitational wells that acted as traps for any passing atom. This was the quiet assembly of the first cosmic architecture, a process that happened in absolute shadow without any accompanying flare or heat. The universe was building its foundations in the silence, preparing the massive gas reservoirs that would one day sustain the first light of the stars. It was a slow and inexorable victory of mass over the void. Eventually, the crushing weight of these gathered gas clouds reached a point of no return, where the physics of the dark were forced to change. In the absolute pressurized hearts of these dense nurseries, the inward pull became so fierce that it overcame the natural electromagnetic repulsion of the hydrogen atoms themselves. A sudden, violent ignition occurred as the first nuclear fires were sparked, and the very first stars flickered into life, shattering the long reign of the Dark Ages. These were the first suns, massive and brilliant giants that were far more powerful than any star currently burning in our modern neighbourhood. They roared into existence with a ferocity that tore through the surrounding gas, ending the silence with a spectacular display of light and heat. Their birth was the turning point of history, a singular moment when the universe finally learned how to manufacture its own energy. These pioneering stars were the first lanterns in the dark, illuminating the massive clouds of gas that had birthed them and signalling the end of the long night. They were the first notes in a new luminous symphony. This spectacular cosmic dawn was not a gentle sunrise, but a violent and transformative flood of fierce ultraviolet radiation that swept through the ancient hydrogen fog. This intense energy acted as a cosmic bleach, fundamentally altering the very chemical nature of the space between the newly born stars and galaxies. As you notice the soft, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest, realize the entire universe once breathed out its first wave of light in exactly this way, clearing its throat after an eternity of silence. The ultraviolet light was so energetic that it travelled for millions of light years, striking the neutral atoms and waking them from their long, cold slumber. It was a secondary clearing of the sky, a process that prepared the void for the complex chemistry and light of the modern era. This radiation didn't just illuminate the space, it physically changed the state of the matter it touched, turning the universe from a neutral nursery into a charged, active environment. The cosmic dawn was the moment the universe finally opened its eyes, flooding the dark with the first evidence of its own creative power. The sheer intensity of this new stellar energy acted like a microscopic hammer, ripping apart the neutral hydrogen atoms that had filled the void during the Dark Ages. This process, known as reionization, stripped the electrons away from their protons, creating a thin and ionized plasma that fills the space between galaxies today. It effectively turned the opaque, neutral fog back into a clear and electrified medium, allowing light to travel even more freely than before. This transition was the final step in the universe's long journey toward transparency, ensuring that the light of distant galaxies could reach us across billions of years. We inhabit a universe that is still defined by this ancient stripping of atoms, a space that is nearly empty but filled with the invisible, charged residue of the first stars. This ionized gas is the transparent ocean in which all modern galaxies swim, a permanent record of the violence of the cosmic dawn. It is the final byproduct of the first generation of suns, a lasting change to the fabric of reality itself. Searching for the exact moment of this massive transition is like trying to hear a single, delicate whisper in the middle of a screaming hurricane. Astronomers look for a tiny and specific absorption signal hidden deep within the ancient radio waves that permeate the sky from every direction. This signature is found at a very specific wavelength, where the neutral hydrogen gas absorbed just a fraction of the background light before it was ionized by the first stars. By finding this dip in the strength of the ancient afterglow, scientists can pinpoint the exact epoch when the first stars began to eat away at the primordial darkness. It is a measurement of a shadow, a record of what was removed from the light rather than what was added to it. This tiny radio signal is the only surviving witness to the death of the Dark Ages, a ghost in the static that tells us exactly when the universe woke up. It is a masterpiece of modern detection, finding a microscopic signal that has been travelling for nearly 13 billion years through the expanding dark. The ancient afterglow perfectly serves as an omnipresent backlight, a glowing cosmic screen against which the earliest history of the stars is written in shadow. As the first suns formed and began to ionize the surrounding gas, they left microscopic imprints on the light that was passing through them from the beginning. If you let your eyelids grow heavy and feel the warm darkness behind them, Consider how even the deepest shadows of the stars are defined by the light that surrounds them. We use the microwave background as a flashlight to see the silhouettes of the first structures that ever formed in the void. It is the ultimate tool of contrast, providing the necessary glow to reveal the dark and cold features of the early transition. Every star that ignited and every cloud that collapsed left a tiny mark on this background radiation, a permanent scar on the light of creation. We are reading the shadows of our ancestors, using the light of the beginning to see the first flicker of the end of the dark. By deeply studying this monumental transition, we witness the universe violently waking up from its long, dark slumber to become the vibrant and star-filled cosmos we recognize today. This era was the bridge between a simple, cooling gas and the complex chemical reality that eventually led to our own existence. It was a time of immense struggle, where gravity and radiation pressure fought to define the limits of the first structures. The immense struggle to define the limits of the first structures has resulted in a mostly harmonious model of the universe, yet this elegance is haunted by a handful of bizarre anomalies that stubbornly resist any logical explanation. If we envision the cosmic background as a perfectly woven silk tapestry, these are the glaringly obvious knots and snags that disrupt the otherwise flawless pattern of creation. Most of our observations align with the standard cosmological model with breathtaking precision, fitting the mathematical predictions like a hand in a well-tailored glove. However, these few recalcitrant data points refuse to be smoothed away, standing out as jagged interruptions in the smooth story of the Big Bang. They act as persistent irritants to the prevailing theories, reminding us that even the most beautiful tapestries can harbour structural defects that hint at a deeper, messier reality. These mysteries are not merely errors in our data, but represent a profound challenge to our narrative of how space and time began their long, cold journey through the infinite. Every time we attempt to tighten the weave of our understanding, these loose threads seem to pull harder, threatening to unravel the comfortable certainty we have spent decades building. We are forced to wonder if the tapestry itself is hiding something fundamental beneath its beautiful speckled surface. The most famous and perplexing of these interruptions is a massive feature known as the cold spot, an unusually large and deep temperature void residing in the southern hemisphere of the sky. While the cosmic microwave background is filled with tiny random fluctuations, this particular region is significantly larger and much more frigid than the statistical average of the rest of the map. It appears as a great empty blemish on the face of the early universe, a circular abyss that defies the random distribution of temperature seen elsewhere. Scientists have scrutinized this region for decades with increasingly sophisticated sensors, checking for instrument errors, localized interference, or even foreground dust from our own galaxy. Yet the spot remains a permanent and unyielding fixture of the primordial glow, staring back at us like an unblinking eye from the dawn of time. It sits there in the dark like a silent frozen lake in a desert of static, mocking our attempts to categorize the entire universe as a perfectly uniform and predictable system. Its sheer size suggests it was born from a physical process that was far more powerful than the simple quantum fluctuations that created the rest of the celestial map. Surprisingly, some theoretical physicists suggest this vast cold region could be the result of a supervoid, a massive expanse of space completely devoid of galaxies through which the ancient light had to pass. As the photons from the dawn of time travelled through such a colossal emptiness, they would have lost a tiny amount of energy to the stretching of space-time without being refilled by the gravitational pull of matter. This energy loss, known as the integrated Sachs-Wolf effect, would make the light appear slightly cooler from our perspective on Earth, effectively casting a thermal shadow where the void sits. Such a structure would have to be hundreds of millions or even billions of light-years across, making it one of the largest and most desolate features in the entire known cosmos. If this theory holds, the cold spot is not a mark from the beginning, but a testament to a terrifyingly vast desert encountered during the light's long journey through the void. It would represent a region of space so empty that even the cosmic web itself has failed to weave its intricate filaments through the dark. This void would be a kingdom of nothingness, a place where gravity has lost its grip on the material world, leaving behind a silent and lightless abyss. If we were to look closer at more radical and controversial possibilities, some theorists propose the cold spot is actually a cosmic bruise, the lingering scar of an ancient collision with a parallel universe. This idea stems from the hypothesis of eternal inflation, where our universe is just one of many bubbling within a much larger infinite multiverse. In this scenario, two separate bubbles of reality might have bumped into each other during their initial violent expansion, leaving a physical mark at the point of contact. This would mean that the blemish in our sky is not an internal flaw of our own Big Bang, but a window into a realm that exists beyond our own space-time. While highly speculative, this theory offers a breathtaking explanation for why one specific patch of our sky looks so fundamentally different from everything else. It suggests that our universe is not a closed system, but a vulnerable entity that has been touched by something truly alien and outside our current understanding. The cold spot would then be the ultimate physical proof of a multiverse, a cosmic wound that has never quite healed over the eons of expansion. It challenges us to think of our entire reality as just one tiny part of a much larger and more violent landscape, where different universes occasionally graze one another in the dark. Another profound mystery that continues to challenge the limits of cosmology is a strange alignment known as the axis of evil, where the largest temperature fluctuations line up perfectly with the geometry of our solar system. When we analyse the broadest and most fundamental ripples in the cosmic afterglow, they appear to point in a specific direction that correlates with the path the Earth takes around the Sun. This is deeply unsettling because the ancient light was released billions of years before our Sun or planets even existed, meaning there should be absolutely no physical relationship between the two. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the weight of your shoulders sinking toward the Earth, grounding yourself in the immediate reality of your own body. While these cosmic alignments seem to link the distant stars to our local path, let the stillness of your limbs remind you of the scale between your own life and the vast mysteries of the heavens. This structure of alignment remains a subject of fierce and ongoing debate in astronomical circles, as researchers struggle to decide whether these strange patterns are mere statistical flukes or signs of entirely new physics. In a universe as vast and complex as ours, it is mathematically possible that random noise could occasionally assemble into a pattern that appears meaningful to a human brain. We're predisposed to find shapes in the clouds and faces in the static, and the same instinct may be leading us to see intent in the random speckles of the early universe. However, if these anomalies are not accidents of perception, they could indicate that our fundamental laws of gravity or the expansion of space-time are incomplete. Every new map of the sky forces us to reconsider whether we are looking at a coincidence or the first crack in our understanding of how reality functions. Deep within the large-scale data, we also consistently see slightly less power in the larger scale fluctuations than the standard mathematical model of cosmology predicts for such a massive expansion. The biggest ripples in the cosmic afterglow, those that span the entire sky, appear somewhat muted and dampened compared to the smaller, more energetic speckles that fill the map. It is as if the universe is missing its deepest bass notes, the low-frequency vibrations that should have dominated the initial roar of the Big Bang. This deficiency suggests that something may have constrained the size of the fluctuations at the very beginning, preventing the largest waves from ever fully forming. This lack of power on a global scale is a quiet but persistent discrepancy that hints at a universe that is either finite in size or governed by rules we have not yet discovered. If the universe has a physical boundary or a specific topology, like a donut or a sphere, it would naturally limit the size of the waves that could exist within it. This missing power is a silent signal that the theatre of reality may be smaller or more structured than we have traditionally assumed. These tiny nagging imperfections are the loose threads that scientists obsessively pull on, hoping to unravel deeper truths about the absolute nature of reality. Just as a single snag in a masterfully woven silk tapestry can reveal the secrets of how the entire fabric was constructed, these cosmic anomalies might be the gateway to an entirely new level of physics. By focusing on the parts of the map that do not fit, we move beyond the comfort of what we already know and venture into the truly unknown and unpredictable. These mysteries are the primary catalyst for progress, pushing the limits of our mathematics and our imaginations to find a more inclusive theory of the cosmos. Every failed prediction or unexplained blemish is an opportunity to rewrite the textbooks and discover a more profound connection between the beginning and the present. We are hunters of the unexplained, following these faint clues into the heart of the most difficult questions ever asked by our species. These loose threads are not failures to be hidden, but the starting points for the next great revolution in human thought. As our measuring instruments become ever sharper and our computational power increases, we must soon determine if these anomalies will disappear or grow even more perplexing under the scrutiny of next-generation technology. Future satellite missions and ground-based observatories are being designed with the specific goal of scrutinizing these mysterious smudges with unprecedented clarity and sensitivity. If the anomalies were merely the result of blurry data, poor resolution, or instrument bias, they should vanish as our vision improves, leaving us with a perfectly uniform and consistent model. However, if they persist or become even more pronounced in higher resolution, we will be forced to accept that the universe is far stranger than our current maps and theories suggest. We are standing at the threshold of a new era of observation where the finest details of the sky will either confirm our brilliance or humble our pride forever. The ancient light is waiting for us to develop the eyes to see it clearly, holding its secrets until we are ready to face the full and terrifying complexity of the beginning. Every improvement in our sight brings us closer to a moment of truth that could change everything. Every single unexplained smudge, cold void, and strange alignment on the cosmic map is a tantalizing hint that our current understanding of the universe is still fundamentally incomplete. We have mapped the afterglow of creation with incredible detail and mathematical precision, yet these persistent mysteries remind us that we are still looking at the world through a limited and perhaps biased perspective. These knots in the tapestry are not failures of the scientific method, but invitations to look deeper and ask more challenging questions about why the universe looks the way it does. They humble us by showing that even after 13 billion years of expansion, the cosmos still holds secrets that can baffle our most brilliant minds and most advanced computers. The quest to explain these anomalies is the next great journey in our attempt to understand the grand, dark ocean of the cosmos as it continues expanding into the void. We are living in a time of magnificent discovery, where the very flaws in our data are the lights that guide us toward the ultimate truth of our origin. This journey of exploration is as much about understanding our own limitations as it is about mapping the far reaches of space and time. As this journey of exploration carries us toward the far reaches of space and time, the very light that has guided our understanding begins its long and inevitable transition into a final, silent state. The universe does not simply exist, it relentlessly continues its accelerating expansion, a process that physically tugs at the fabric of the vacuum itself. As the distance between distant galaxy clusters grows ever more vast, the ancient photons of the cosmic microwave background are forced to inhabit a much larger and more diluted reality. This stretching effect is unyielding, pulling the ripples of the primordial dawn into longer and thinner wavelengths that struggle to maintain their presence in the void. Like a glowing red ember slowly and inevitably losing its heat, this radiation is being thinned out across the expanding dark. Every passing second of cosmic time ensures that this ancient message becomes harder to decipher, its energy steadily drained by the very expansion it once helped us measure. Trillions of years into the distant future, the physical stretching of the cosmos will reach a point of absolute and staggering transformation. The wavelength of this primordial light will eventually become physically longer than the observable universe itself, growing larger than the very horizon of reality we can perceive. At such an extreme scale, the radiation essentially loses its character as a wave that can be caught or measured within the confines of our three-dimensional space. It becomes a ghostly presence that is technically still there but effectively outside the reach of any physical interaction. The peaks and troughs of the ancient light will be so widely separated that they could never be identified as a coherent signal by any observer. This represents the ultimate dilution of the Big Bang's energy, a transition from a detectable hum to a structural silence that spans the entire breadth of the infinite. The universe will have physically outgrown the very light that heralded its birth. Eventually, this unceasing expansion will push the ancient radiation beyond a critical threshold where it becomes completely undetectable by any conceivable physical instrument or technology. No matter how sensitive the superconducting sensors or how massive the orbital antennas, there will be no signal left in the microwave spectrum to be captured. The last few photons that once carried the map of the beginning will have been stretched so far into the infrared and radio bands that they finally vanish into the background noise of absolute nothingness. It is a slow and thermodynamic death for the oldest information in existence, a terminal fading that cannot be reversed by any amount of ingenuity. The cosmic background is not an eternal monument, but a transient feature of a universe in motion. Once it crosses this final threshold, the physical evidence of our shared origin will be permanently lost to the void. We are currently watching the slow terminal dimming of the most important fire in the history of time. If you let the weight of your body sink fully into your surroundings, finding a place of absolute and grounded stillness, consider the profound isolation of those who will come after us. Future civilizations inhabiting the fading cosmos will look up into a completely dark sky, a firmament totally devoid of this crucial evidence of the Big Bang. They will live in a universe where the ancient light has already slipped beneath the horizon of detection, leaving no trace of the fiery dawn that birthed their stars. The brilliant speckled map that we rely on to understand our history will have been erased by the unyielding expansion of the void. For these observers, the night sky will be a featureless and empty desert, offering no clues about the age, mass, or density of the fabric of reality. The record of creation will have been wiped clean, leaving only the immediate local light of their own dying suns to guide them. They will be the orphans of time, living in a reality that has forgotten where it came from. Without the cosmic background to serve as a persistent and universal guide, these distant inhabitants may logically conclude that their isolated galaxy has simply existed forever. They might look out into the absolute darkness and see a static, unchanging void that has no beginning and no discernible end. Lacking the red-shifted light of the clearing fog, they would have no reason to suspect that the universe once fit inside a subatomic speck. Their science would be built upon a fundamental illusion, a perception of a stationary cosmos that has never known the violence of a singular expansion. The evidence that currently defines our most advanced theories will be as unreachable to them as a myth or a dream. It is a chilling realization that the truth of the universe is a temporary gift, dependent entirely on the era in which one is born to observe it. This future silence is the ultimate gatekeeper, locking the secrets of the Big Bang behind an impenetrable wall of expanding space. Surprisingly, we find ourselves living in an incredibly privileged cosmic era where the afterglow of creation is still bright and energetic enough to be accurately read. We exist in a brief and golden window of opportunity, positioned between the chaotic blindness of the early plasma and the inevitable silence of the terminal freeze. Our telescopes were built at exactly the right time to catch the last few billion years of a signal that is steadily departing for the infinite. If our species had arrived just a few billion years later, the secrets of the dark matter and the weight of the universe might have remained forever hidden from our sight. This alignment of our existence with the readability of the cosmic background is the greatest stroke of luck in the history of human thought. We are the witnesses of a fading miracle, given the chance to see the face of the beginning before it is hidden by the eons. This privilege carries with it a profound responsibility to map every ripple and decode every twist while the light still lingers in our sky. The microscopic energy of these ancient photons will eventually approach the absolute zero of thermodynamic death, contributing absolutely no heat to the freezing vacuum. As the embers of the Big Bang grow cold, they will lose their ability to interact with the material world in any meaningful way. The universal thermostat that currently prevents space from being perfectly cold will finally be turned off, allowing the void to reach its ultimate chilling destiny. This process is the slow and inevitable cooling of a fire that was once hot enough to forge the very first atoms. Looking into the deep sky, we are watching the very last flickers of heat escaping into a darkness that can never be warmed again. The ancient light will become a thermodynamic ghost, a presence with no power and no temperature, drifting through a reality that has grown too vast to feel its touch. This final cooling is the endgame of the second law of thermodynamics, where energy is so spread out that it ceases to be useful or even detectable. Even as it eventually vanishes entirely from our view, the lasting imprint of the cosmic microwave background has permanently dictated the location of every star and planet. The ripples that were frozen into the ancient fog millions of years ago provided the structural blueprint that gravity used to build the entire material universe. Every galaxy cluster, every solar system, and the very ground you stand on were all determined by the density variations in that early heat. This means that while the light itself may fade into the dark, its influence is physically written into the very arrangement of the matter it left behind. The architecture of the cosmos is a permanent memorial to the light that is no longer here to see it. We are the living expression of those ancient fluctuations, a physical consequence of the first song that was sung by the infant universe. The afterglow is the ghost that still moves the pieces on the cosmic board, its logic persisting long after its brilliance has been extinguished. The violent story of the universe's fiery birth will eventually be erased from the sky forever, preserved only in the silent structure of the matter that currently populates the void. The radiant evidence of the Big Bang is a temporary feature of the heavens, a bridge between the start of time and the end of structure. Once the photons are too long to see, and the temperature has hit the absolute floor, the memory of the beginning will reside only in the atoms and the stars. We are the stewards of this story during the only time it can be truly seen and understood through direct observation. The transition from a glowing sky to a dark sky is the final and most profound shift in the history of the cosmic narrative. When the last microwave photon stretches into the infinite, the first page of the book of reality will be torn out and cast into the wind. We exist in the era of the telling, witnessing the final moments of a message that has been travelling across the deep dark for nearly 14 billion years. The fading static of the dawn reveals that the universe is not just a place where you happen to live, but a single, synchronized event in which you are the final, resonant frequency of a song that is still being played out across the infinite dark. The static of creation, once a blinding roar and now a frozen whisper, reveals that you're not just an observer of the universe, but the exact mathematical consequence of its very first breath. This realization connects your current moment to the absolute beginning, proving that every atom within you was forged in the same initial flash. You are the grand synthesis of 13 billion years of expansion, now coming to rest in the stillness of the present. Deep within this quiet room, the grand journey of the cosmos finally returns to the small, intimate space of your own presence. This structure of flesh and bone is the final harbour for the ancient light, a place where the echoes of the beginning have finally found a moment of absolute rest. The immense scale of the heavens begins to shrink now, drawing inward until only the steady pulse of your own life remains. Surprisingly, the body knows exactly how to let go of the weight of the eons. Focus your attention down to your toes, feeling them grow heavy and warm as they surrender to the soft support of the mattress. This quiet release spreads through the arches of your feet and into your ankles, allowing every muscle to go limp and still. Let this wave of relaxation travel slowly up through your calves and knees, dissolving any lingering tension from the day's travels. Your thighs feel increasingly heavy, sinking deeper into the bed with every slow, deliberate exhale. All the distance we have covered tonight is now anchored in the simple, comforting gravity that holds you right here. As your hips and lower back settle into the soft surface, feel the core of your body become a sanctuary of calm. This structure of your torso rises and falls with a rhythm as old as time, yet as gentle as a whisper. Every breath is a slow, rhythmic tide that washes away the vast complexities of the world outside. The weight of your hands feels like soft stones resting peacefully in the cool sheets. This stillness travels up your arms, relaxing the elbows and melting the shoulders away from the neck. Every finger is curled in a natural, effortless curve of absolute surrender. A profound softness moves into your jaw, allowing the tongue to rest and the lips to part just slightly. This quiet ease flows over your cheeks and eyes, smoothing the brow until all thought becomes a soft, featureless haze. Your head is supported perfectly, a heavy and peaceful weight that requires no effort to hold. The air in this room is cool and still, wrapping around you like a familiar protective blanket. Within this sanctuary, the only sound is the quiet, muffled heartbeat of a house at rest. The fabric against your skin is smooth and inviting, a physical reminder that you are safe and undisturbed. This moment is a perfect, isolated pocket of time where the only requirement is to let go. The shadows in the corner are soft and friendly, blending into the gentle dimness of the evening. Your thoughts are drifting now, becoming like wisps of smoke that vanish before they can take shape. The covers are tucked in close, providing a warmth that is steady and kind. You're sinking deeper into the velvet depths of sleep, where the mind finally finds its own quiet center. Everything is settled, everything is quiet, and everything is exactly as it should be for a long restorative rest. And now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.